Hey, third graders, it's Mrs. Linderman. We talked about creating believable characters the other day, so I just want to remind you about that. Let me move that. There we go. We created this profile in our reader's notebook or writer's notebook, if you'll remember, right? And we talked about how the characters that you write about in your stories are really important. And in order to make them believable, you as an author have to know, right, what they look like, how they act, things that they're going to say, those different character traits that they would have. And when you do that and you are informed and you know a lot about your character, then when you put them in your story in a certain setting or a particular scene, you know how they're going to behave. You know the things that they would say in response to something, right? And what's going to happen to what's happening in all the events in your story. Remember that I left part of mine blank, right? About what my character might learn or how they might change from the beginning of the story to the end, because I'm still working through my kind of somebody wanted, but so then, right? Thinking about my plot mountain, how it starts out and kind of what that rising action is and the climax, and then my falling action and my resolution. I'm still working on that, and we'll talk about that next week. But today I want to show you a little bit more about how to take that believable character and develop them even further. Now, you've already watched and listened to the story called A Day's Work by Eve Bunting. So this is a story, and if you've not listened to it, you need to go do that now. Okay, you can pause this video and come back to it later. But that is your first order of business, right, is to watch this read aloud, because this is showing you how you can develop some characters, right? Good writers do that by giving them issues. There's problems in the story, and then they give them some drive or some motivation to do something or to fix something or to achieve a goal in the story. So we're going to take a little bit closer look at a couple of characters in this story so that you can see how you can dig a little bit deeper into the characters that you're writing about, right? When we develop those characters, we want to be thinking about what are their issues, because you're going to have to give your character some problem, right? This is a realistic fiction story. Something is happening in your story, right? Some kind of a problem or an issue. So let's look a little bit more in depth at Francisco, the boy in the story. What were some problems that he was facing in his life, right? He doesn't have enough money, right? His family is struggling. His abuelo, or his grandfather, right, just came to this country. He's an immigrant and he came from another country and he doesn't speak any English. So Francisco has to translate things for him and talk to people, right, and explain things. Francisco's mom has to work all the time, right? And then Francisco has to learn a little bit about telling the truth. Because remember, when he is translating for his grandfather, he kind of stretches the truth. He exaggerates a little bit, right? And they get themselves into a bit of a pickle. Remember, they are going to do some gardening or some lawn work, right? And they're supposed to only pick the weeds, but accidentally they pick the flowers instead, right? And then Ben is very upset. And why wouldn't he be? He hired them to do a job, right? So what's the motivation or the drive? If somebody has drive, they have like that internal feeling of doing something to fix it, right? That motivation. So how do they fix the problem? Think about how his abuelo was really good at modeling about how to fix the problem of pulling those weeds, right? Or pulling the flowers instead of the weeds. Because he says, we need to make this right. Ask him what we can do. And they were already working on a Saturday, right? And they offered to do the fixing, to fix the problem on a Sunday. So they were going to have to miss, right, the basketball game. They were going to have to miss church. But it was worth it, right, to show that they are good people of character. And it was important for his grandfather to share that about himself, because he's looking for work, right? He came from someplace else and he doesn't have a job. So it was important for his grandfather to make it right, right? And because they were motivated to do that, Ben saw that, the grandfather was a good worker and he was an honest man, and he would try to make things right if he had done something wrong. So in the end, he's going to get more work, right, down the line. So what did Francisco learn? Think about that, right? He learned that it's very important to tell the truth, right? He could have even said to Ben, we don't know a lot about this, but we'll work really hard. We'll try our best, right? And he also learned from his grandfather, from his abuelo, that you have to take responsibility for your actions. You have to, make things right when you've done something wrong. Maybe you need to apologize, right? And sometimes you can't fix something, but you need to address it and take responsibility for your actions. So we learned a little bit more about these characters in this story, right? Thinking about the issues and problems, thinking about how did they fix the problem, and kind of what did they learn in the end. So as you are creating your main character, and maybe you have a couple of important characters, you are learning and sharing with your audience a little bit more about them as people, as real characters, so that we can get to know them and we understand that they're just like us, right? So thinking about kind of what your plot mountain is going to be, I'm going to show you on Tuesday or Monday. I'm developing my story. Remember, here's my character. At the beginning here, I showed you the chart that we worked on the other day, right? It's Tilly, right? She's a 9-year-old, and I talked a lot about how she's helpful and she stands up for others, and she's just an all-around good person, and she seems kind of fun, right? She's kind of short, she's got dimples, she wears tennis shoes with her dresses, and I'm thinking that my setting is going to be at school because I know a lot about elementary schools. And I think there's going to be a problem, maybe at lunch or maybe at recess. And how is Tilly going to handle this problem? What is she going to do? How is she going to be an upstander, right? Somebody who stands up for somebody else. What might she say in this story? And then how does she change, or maybe what lesson does she learn, or what lesson can she teach somebody else at the end of my realistic fiction story? Okay, so you want to be thinking about your characters, mainly your main character, right? What are some problems that they're going to face in the story, right? And how are they maybe going to try to fix the problem that they have? All right, so when we get together on Monday, we're going to start to really map out our story and plan it out so that we can get to work.